Welcome to the Castle of Spirits Extrasode number 2. This Extrasode is brought to you by episode number 16, where we discussed all things ghost lights. On today's Extrasode, we are going to read you a couple of stories that involve ghostly lights. These stories came straight from the Castle of Spirits archive, where we have almost 4,700 true paranormal stories for your reading pleasure.
Submitted by people just like yourself.
That's right. And we are super excited to continue to grow our library. So please write to us. Tell us your paranormal stories of any kind. We want to hear it all. Especially this week, if you have ever seen a ghost light, either ones like we referred to in the episode or something completely different, some kind of a ghostly glow, we want to hear all about it. So make sure you submit your story through castleofspirits.com/submit.
Come one, come all, shine upon us.
Oh, that was weird.
No?
Okay, so I'm going to start out today. My story is actually 2 stories in one. So I'll read half of it, and then I'll turn the time to you, and then I'll come back and finish my story. How's that sound?
Okay.
All right. So these stories are submitted by Neil in Texas, and he submitted this in January of 2006. And the first story is called The Headless Ghost. I haven't really had many personal experiences with the paranormal, which is a shame, really, because I've always been fascinated by the subject. Ever since I was a kid, I've loved scary movies and loved the adrenaline rush that comes from being scared. However, the thought of being haunted by a poltergeist or waking to a ghostly figure sitting at the foot of my bed isn't really appealing either, so I guess I'm good with the 2 experiences I've had. The first experience happened while I was attending Texas Tech University in 1993. After class one day, I overheard a conversation that involved the word ghost. My ears perked up, and I requested an immediate summation of what had happened. That is very much me. If I heard random strangers in passing talking about a ghost, I would immediately insert myself into that conversation.
Yeah, you would. She would, folks.
I got the location of the ghostly sighting and the steps one must take in order to see the ghost. The ghost appears at a residential intersection, Memphis and 66th Street, but you must follow specific driving instructions in order to see it. The instructions were as follows. Drive on Memphis past 66th Street until you get to 69th Street. Then you make a U-turn back towards 66th, but while doing so, you must turn off your headlights. This doesn't sound safe.
No.
Don't make U-turns without headlights on, guys.
And if you're listening to this and you're in that area, just don't.
Yeah, don't. Then slowly creep back to 66th, and a ghostly headless figure will appear on that corner leaning up against a street light. So that evening, I gathered 2 friends who I'll call Beavis and Wayne. Neil's quite the character, folks. And off we went. All of us were fairly skeptical and didn't expect to see anything. We followed the instructions and started our slow creep back to 66th. We got about 40 feet from the streetlight and stopped. It's a quiet neighborhood, so we sat there for a minute. Then we started to see a silhouette appear. Then it took on a little more definition. At this point, my friends and I started freaking out, panicked, and took off. After a few minutes and a few miles down the road, we gathered our composure and tried again, thinking our minds must have been playing tricks on us. We thought maybe our outbursts and comments during the initial sighting fed each other's imagination. We decided not to talk once we got back to the streetlight. We followed the steps again and sat silently in my car, staring at the light pole. It starts to happen again. Almost as clear as day, a man's body with no head appears, leaning against the streetlight. His arms were down by his side. Then, all of a sudden, he crossed them. At the same time, all 3 of us said, "Oh crap, did you just see that?" Yeah, we all saw it. Arms crossed, that did it for us. We of course went back many times, all with the same result. The place started getting popular, and every Halloween there was a line of cars doing the same thing. One night, my friend Wayne decided he wanted to scare some people by leaning up against the pole and chasing after them when their car got close. However, he didn't last long, saying he felt a tap on the shoulder. Local legend has it that a man got in a fight with his cheating lover, sped away from her house and got into an accident, flipped his car and was decapitated. Who knows? I've done Google research and couldn't find anything. Story seems a little contrived, but I swear the ghost is real. Thank you again, Neil in Texas. That was very fun, and I'm sure that your friends appreciate being called Beavis and Wayne. I mean, Wayne isn't so bad, but...
Right. Maybe he was trying to keep it G-rated,
maybe.
So he didn't want to say butthead. But yeah, that's quite interesting. Maybe I'm showing my age, or maybe I'm showing my temperament when I think about the long line of cars waiting to see this shadow. And I think those poor people who live on that street.
Or the poor people who are just trying to drive down that street getting stuck behind it.
Right. They're going, what is happening? Oh, it's a checkpoint. Let's turn around.
I was thinking that same thing. But it's interesting that it's such a reliable, experience that they went back several times, twice in the same night, and had the exact same thing happen. And yeah.
Something like that has to be an optical illusion, because I cannot imagine a ghost continuing to perform for all these cars. At some point, he's got to say...
being at the beck and call of every car.
Right, at some point, he's got to say, you know what? I got to take a coffee break. And then these next 5 people who pull up, they don't see anything.
Right.
And then that does nothing for his legend or for his brand at all. I don't know. Maybe they don't have labor laws in the afterlife or something. So...
You said you also have a story to read?
Huh? No?
It's your turn.
Yes, I actually did find a Ghost Light related story.
Do it.
At castleofspirits.com. This one was written by Brian S. and Bob F., both from South Carolina, USA, in January 1999.
Wow.
Do you remember the 90s? I do.
I do.
I fondly recall them, as does my hairline. This story is called Summerville Light. I know you mentioned Summerville Light briefly in podcast episode 16, and it goes a lot like this. In Summerville, South Carolina, there's a famous ghost of a man that roams with his light every night. Here is the story of our experiences. Back in the 1800s, there used to be a train track in place of the road. Every night, there was a man who would wait patiently by the tracks for the train. Well, one night the train was running late, and so he laid his head down on the tracks to listen for the train, and the train came along and ran over his head.
No.
I'm sorry. I just love that. I don't love it. I'm just saying it's funny.
I don't understand how you put your ear on a rail to listen for, I understand how that works, but I don't understand how you put your ear down to listen for the train and get surprised by it running over your head. I
just had this vision of this guy resting his head against the tracks, already ill-advised, because even if there's nothing coming, they're dirty.
Right.
So he puts his head against the tracks and is listening, and at the last minute his eyes fly open. Oh, it's like, I wonder, I don't hear anything. And it's over. Anyway, that's the legend, so we're going to go with it.
All right.
We're just going to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the story goes that now he walks the road every night searching for his lost head and swinging his lantern. Mm-hmm. The lantern is the only thing that can be seen about him. My friends and I weren't really sure if this was true or not, so we decided to go back to the road and find out. We all piled into my truck and went back. It was around midnight. We were driving down the road when my friend looked behind us and said, "There it is." So I stopped the truck, I put it in park, and I looked behind us, and sure enough, there was a light directly behind us about 30 feet back. I put the truck in gear and proceeded to go as fast as possible to get out of there. Evidently, it didn't want us to leave, because on the way back, it appeared in front of us, about 20 feet away. So now we were getting scared. I wasn't sure what to do, and then it disappeared. And I went as fast as I could to get out of there.
Yeah.
Okay, you went there looking for it. Enjoy the experience,
Right.
Don't drive like a lunatic. Many people have said they've seen it, but their stories are always a little bit different. That was from Brian S. and Bob F. in South Carolina from January 1999. Guys, if you're still out there, you got more stories to tell about the Summerville Light, please reach out. Let us know.
And if anybody else has Summerville Light stories,
yeah,
let's have them.
I'm curious to know a little bit more about Summerville Light or any other ghost lights that are out there. Jane, I think you said that you had the conclusion to
Neil's story.
To the story by Neil from 2006, right?
Yep. And, well, it's a completely different story. And this one's called The Blue Light. The next experience happened back in the summer of 1998. A friend and I, who I'll call Matt, because that's his name. Thanks, Neil.
I like Neil.
Neil's awesome.
He's one funny so-and-so.
Neil, you need to have some more experiences so you can write us again. Anyway, we're hanging out one night in a field in Heath, Texas, 30 miles outside of Dallas, where we live. You see, my friend and I were raised in the city, but every chance we got, we'd go out into the country, build a bonfire, and drink a few beers, and just talk about everything from the size of girls' shoes to the state of the union.
It's a conversation that I have had many times with my buddies, and it's always fruitful.
We usually have a few more friends with us, but they lamed out this night due to girlfriend obligations. I told you, Neil's a character. Anyway.
Lamed out. I'm going to start using that.
So we ended up in a field in Heath, one that we've been to a few times before. The field was covered in 3-foot-high grass and scattered trees. I had my dad's truck that night, so off-roading through a sea of grass we went. We ended up near a clump of trees so that we couldn't be seen from the dirt road as we were trespassing. With the grass so high, we decided it best to sit in our lawn chairs in the truck bed. So Texas. It's exactly what I picture recreating in Texas to be like. We sat facing each other, a habit we formed in order to watch each other's back. Well, we'd been out there for a few hours, and it was getting close to 11:30 p.m. I was listening to Matt talk about something when all of a sudden, the left side of his face started to reflect a blue light.
What?
I immediately thought, oh crap, here comes the owner of the property, thinking it was someone with a flashlight coming towards us. We turned our heads to where the blue light was coming from. It was coming from the middle of a clump of trees no more than 20 feet away from us. There were 3 trees in somewhat of a triangle. The strange thing was that it wasn't moving. It was omnidirectional, and that its source seemed to be about 25 feet high. We never saw the actual light, just the glow that it emanated. Anyway, the light lasted for about 3 to 4 seconds, which seemed like an eternity, and then it went out. We sat there stunned, still waiting for someone to emerge from the trees. There was nothing. It was perfectly quiet, and with all of the dead, high grass around, there was no way for anyone to get that close to us without being heard. Still freaked, we jumped in the truck and circled the tree to see if anyone was around there. There was no one. It was beginning to hit us that whatever caused that light was not human. We decided to head back home, so we made our way through the field back to the dirt road some 70 yards away. Once we got back to the dirt road, we noticed a small abandoned cemetery directly across the street from the field, which we never noticed before. Goosebumps immediately emerged. We've been back in the field a few times, but never again experienced the blue light. That kind of sucks, but like I said, I'm good with the 2 experiences I've had. Thanks for reading. No, Neil, thanks for telling. We loved your stories.
And we will be providing a link to these stories in these here show notes in case you want to read those to yourself over and over.
Or share them with a friend.
And
here we go, getting beggy again.
Sharing is good. Beggy is bad.
No, being beggy is good. Please, guys, send us your paranormal experiences. Yes, you're a good enough writer. Yes, your story is good enough. Send us what you got. If you don't have a story to share, encourage people you know who do have stories to share to submit them. Or you know what? Just submit them for us. If you tell us, hey, this isn't my story, it's my friend's story, we're going to accept it.
Because all stories are welcome.
We have no scruples.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean? I have a couple of scruples, and I see them in the mirror every morning when I wake up, and they are quite becoming.
No.
So I suggest that we all have some. Anyway, thanks for reading, Jane.
Thank you for reading, Vince.
Ah, yes.
So thank you again, and we will see you next week for a whole new episode of Castle of Spirits Paranormal Podcast.
Stay glowy, my friends.
Ooh.